Hello and welcome to the third in a series of films about the standard level organic topic. Here we're going to be looking at a particular type of homologous series called the alkanes, and hopefully by the end of this film you'll know what features all alkanes possess, how we can use a system of prefixes to identify how many carbons there are in a carbon chain, in particular with the alkanes, and also you'll be able to name the first 6 alkanes, so that is alkanes with up to 6 carbon atoms, and be able to draw their structures. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the features of alkanes. You've seen a bit of alkanes hopefully before in the first film. We were looking at these molecules which were made just of carbon and hydrogen, so they're called hydrocarbons. These carbon atoms in the chain have only got single bonds. This is a really important feature of alkanes that distinguishes them from the similarly named alkenes. Okay, so only single bonds, and this means because there's no space, if you like, there's no spare bonds in the molecule where other things could add, alkanes are called saturated. Right? We can't put any more atoms into them without taking some out. Okay, so because they're only singly bonded, they're called saturated, and they all have the general formula CnH2n plus 2. So n is any whole number, so for example if n was 1, H would be 2 times 1 plus 2, which is CH4. Okay, so this is the first alkane with 1 carbon atom. Okay, and if we have a look at the first 6 alkanes, because we need to be able to name the first 6, we can see in capitals here what the prefixes are we use for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 carbon atoms. Okay, so they are meth for 1 carbon atom, eth for 2, prop for 3, bute for 4. For some reason these two, and in particular prop and pent, get confused, even though most people know that pentagons have 5 sides. Okay, so pent means 5 and hex, just like in hexagon, means 6. These first 4 are nothing to do with the names of shapes, so they're maybe a bit harder to remember, but some people like to say that monkeys eat peanut butter for the first 4. Anyway, here are the formulas which you should be able to figure out, considering they all have the general formula CnH2n plus 2. So what's simply happening is that you're multiplying the number of carbons by 2 and adding 2 to get the number of hydrogens. And what's also very important is that you can draw the structure of all these molecules. So for example, CH4, 1 carbon bonded to 4 hydrogens, all with single bonds. C2H6 would have 2 carbons joined together and hydrogens filling all the other 4 spaces, because carbon, remember, forms 4 bonds, but it's used one to join to the other carbon. I could do that for the third one as well. So 1, 2, 3 carbons, and as I said before, just to save time, I might sometimes not bother filling in the hydrogens, okay? But this is an important thing not to do, so it's a bad habit, okay? Bad habit of mine, but don't get into this habit because it will cost you marks, okay? And similarly, if I added another carbon, so now if you can kind of maybe see where the CH2 thing is coming in, because before I put this carbon here, we had a CH3 on the end, a CH3 on the end, and a CH2 in the middle. I'm now kind of putting another CH2 into the chain and moving that CH3 along to the end. Okay, so this is C4H8. Now, C4H10. But what you might be starting to think at this stage is that I could actually arrange 4 carbons not all in one big long chain. Okay, but for the purposes of this particular film, we're just dealing with the straight chains. So there's C5H12, and if I put another carbon on the end, that's C6H14. Okay, so that's how we draw the alkanes, and as I say, in future films, we'll look at how these structures can vary and yet still fulfill these formulas. Okay, so hopefully you now know what an alkane is. You notice that they all end in ane, hence the name alkanes. You know what the first 6 prefixes are, and you feel confident drawing the first 6 alkanes. If you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to come and see me, but practice this stuff because it's important to remember. You won't remember it just by seeing it once, I don't suppose. Oh, and also if you've got any comments that you want to put on YouTube, that would be great.